Welcome back to another episode of Rob Sports Center, man. As you can see by the title and by the thumbnail, we're going to be breaking down some film on Terry McLaurin. So we're going to get straight into it, man. The very first matchup, you got a one-on-one matchup on the outside. Now, you know a category that I always talk about, which I would say is not necessarily a statistic, but it's something that we can look at whenever we're kind of deciphering games won and lost, and that's explosive plays on the offensive side, especially. How many of them were we able to create? So right here, they do a good job at putting Scary Terry in a one-on-one matchup outside with the corner. And he, like I said, he just simply beats him. The corner opened up his hips a little early. And when he opened up his hips, Terry McLaurin just kind of really just stemmed it straight on up the field, and he was just out of position. Jaden Daniels did a good job of delivering the ball. But once again, like I said, when you got a receiver like Terry McLaurin, the possibilities of explosive plays become so much greater just because, he has that deep threat ability. For one, he has the deep threat ability to beat you deep, but then two, he also has that deep threat ability to be able to take maybe a 3-yard, 5-yard slant or a 3-yard hitch the length of the field for a touchdown. We've seen him do that in the playoff game against Detroit. So, when you have a guy like him, the plays, explosive plays become much more possible, or they become much more often because of the explosive player that he is. All right here, man, we got one of my favorite scenarios, man. 3rd and 7, gotta have a territory. When you find yourself in gotta have a territory, you're gonna go to your gotta have it guys, your playmakers. And obviously we know over the course of last season and over the course of the last few seasons that gotta have it guy has been Terry McLaurin. So out here, once again, I don't understand why they keep playing him one-on-one. You got a one-on-one matchup on the outside. It looked like they didn't really have no safety help, at least on the other play, like they might have been in a single high and the safety just wasn't able to get over there in time. But this one right here, like, it just didn't have no safety help at all, honestly. So they left him on an island out there with Terry McLaurin. That's not really what you want to do. Now, I will say this too, though. The corner did a good job at playing this, because if you look, even though it's not all the way in frame, it looked like Terry McLaurin kind of ran like a stutter step, like a double move. He broke it down like he was probably finna maybe run a hitch, a stop and go, what you would consider. Like right there you see, and then you see him stretch back out vertically. Now, I will say that the corner either did one or two things. Either he did a good job at not falling for the fake, or he did a good job at recovering after he fell for the fake. But the separation wasn't really that great. They had a blitz coming in on Jaden Daniels, so Jaden Daniels kind of had to play anticipation ball and get the ball out of his hands and trust that that Terry McLaurin was going to be there, and he did, honestly. He kind of did this on top of slightly being a little pass interference. The DB kind of got there a little earlier, but it didn't matter. He still was able to secure the catch and get both feet in and get this touchdown, and they got to have a situation. And also, it goes back to what I was saying, too. In the very first clip, what did I say? A category that we need to look at, or a lot of times that's often overlooked in games won and lost, is explosive plays. How many were you able to create offensively, and how many were you able to minimize defensively? And right here, once again, they do another good job at being able to create an explosive play on the 3rd down that resulted in a touchdown. All right, we gotta have a situation down here in the red area. You got a 3rd down play. You got Terry McLaurin on the outside. So if you look at the defensive back, he's played to the outside leverage, obviously, right? Because there's no help outside. He has help inside, and inside is going to be a much messier look. And what I mean by that is that you got a white jersey right there, which is Terry McLaurin, white, right? So watch when you got a white jersey. You got Terry McLaurin. Now look at how many red jerseys are in the area. You got 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4 red jerseys that's in the area. So typically going across the middle, a lot of times, a lot of quarterbacks try to stay away from, just because of the possibilities of interception and pass breakups. But he does a good job attacking the DB's leverage. So right here, he does a good job. Just watch him. Like, notice that early on, I think it might have been the first video where I was talking about how the DB at that time had outside leverage on him as well. And he just did a good job at attacking that leverage and then bouncing it back inside. So what he does is, when he comes off the line of scrimmage, he's not in no rush. He's not trying to run super fast. He's just vertically attacking. And you look at the sell, right? Everything, like I always talk about, when it comes to route running, everything is all about selling. Using the shoulders, using the head. Because if a DB's is playing undisciplined and he's looking up top, every time you're going to get him, right? You'll know that as a DB, your eyes have to be on the hips, but you have to incorporate that into your route running as a receiver to be able to give them the art of deception. Like I say, it didn't come to boxing. That's the whole point of feints. You want to feint until you can catch your opponent off guard. It's no different than in football. If you're a wide receiver, your feints are your sells. You selling a route going this way, you selling a route going that way. But a lot of times it's all about attacking the DB's leverage, especially in off-man coverage right there. But like I said too, when you get in the red area, everything becomes so much more tightly confined now, because the red area is usually pretty much anything that's 20 yards out from the end zone. So now you don't have as much room to run. So you really have to be very creative with your route running to be able to get that separation, because you don't have the ability to stretch a defense vertically because the field becomes so much more compressed. So right here, we got another guy to have a situation. We got a third down play right here. You got Terry McLaurin on the outside. So right here, the DB actually does a pretty good job in terms of his pass coverage. But what do I always talk about? This is a prime example. Like I always talk about, we talk about, now we're going to just use receivers, no other position, but this applies for every other position too. When you use receiver, what makes a good receiver, a great receiver, right? A great receiver can play on script and off script. So you might say, what is on script and what's off script? Let me show you. On script is when you draw up a play, right? And let's say, for instance, my route is a 3-yard slant and everything plays the part. We get the defense in the coverage we want them in. My offensive line holds up. The quarterback puts a perfect ball on me, right? That's what you call playing on script. Off script is situations like this where the DB might cover you good originally. The pressure might get to the quarterback to where he has to roll out and to try to make something happen now. Now, as a receiver, how can you make effective in this situation? So notice how Terry McLaurin doesn't give up on the play. He noticed that Jaden Daniels is getting out the pocket or even trying to extend the play. So what does he do? He keep working, he keep maneuvering, he keep working to try to find a little soft spot to give Jaden Daniels a target to throw to, just like how he did right here for, I wouldn't say an easy first down, but for a first down completion to keep the sticks moving. So right here, we got another one of those situations. So for one, this was a gotta have it situation. This was a third down. You know how I always place emphasis on the gotta have it situations, because that really is that tells you the significance of a player. Like at the end of the day, making plays and making plays. If you can make a play on first down, if you can make a play on second down, that's good. But I think that the big significance come down to when we need a play to be made, when it's a third down and we're trying to keep the sticks moving, when it's a fourth down and we're trying to keep our offense on the field, right? That's when the big playmakers are amplified. Can they make those plays in those situations? So once again, Terry McLaurin makes another good makes another gotta have a situation possible. But once again, it ties back into what I was saying in the previous clip, where I was saying playing on script, right? You can't when we draw this play up, we're not drawing up a difficult catch like this. The pass rush might have got there to where Jaden Daniels might have had to get the ball out of his hands more earlier than what he would have liked to do, right? So as a receiver, do I give up on it, or do I fight for every single ball that comes in my direction? That's what he does right here. We're making a phenomenal catch in a gotta have a situation on a third down conversion. Okay, so right here, we got another fourth down. We got another guy to have a situation in the red area. And what was one of the things I said that you have to be able to do in the red area? You have to be able to operate in tight spaces, right? So once again, right here, if you look at the route originally, Terry McLaurin did a good job at right there, boom, creating separation. Now, guess what? Had that been the length of the field or anything from the 50-yard line on out to where he has more room to maneuver, that's a walk-in touchdown easily, because he had him beat off of the original fake right here. But once again, what does that tie back into as well? It ties back into selling the routes. Once again, man, utilizing your shoulders, utilizing your head to throw the DB off, because if the DB's not disciplined and he's going based off your shoulders and your head, it's going to be easy to fake him. Now, when you're dealing with DBs that's a little bit more disciplined, it might not be that easy and you might not have the separation. But you look at when he beat him off the line of scrimmage, eventually, because of the condensed area, it became a difficult tight window catch, which he does a good job at being able to adjust his body and make the catch and one-on-one coverage, and a guy to have a situation and get his feet down to secure a touchdown on top of somewhat being PI'd. So we got another one-on-one matchup on the outside, got another red area touchdown. So once again, notice how he does a good job. If you watch, like studying Terry McLaurin, I'm noticing that if you notice, when he comes off the line of scrimmage, he's never really in a rush. You know, he's not trying to run 100 miles per hour. He's running with a sense of urgency, obviously, but he's being real methodical in his approach to attacking, right? So notice right here, once again, the DB had his back to the sideline. Obviously, you know, he was kind of anticipating that there's probably going to be something breaking inside just because of where Terry McLaurin was lined up. I mean, you look at that, he's lined up on the outside, outside the numbers. So typically when you lined up outside the numbers for the most part, which, you know, it's normally going to be just a go ball. It's normally going to be just a fade. If it's going to be anything going in that direction, everything else you would anticipate is probably going to be in breaking. So he does a good job at, you know, being able to kind of stem it inside. So notice that once the wide receiver, not the wide receiver, but once the DB kind of committed to kind of opening his hips up a little bit more, he just kind of attacked the inside and boom, caught him, and he wasn't able to flip his hips around and get back out there. And it was just an easy throw and catch from Jaden Daniels to Terry McLaurin. And notice once again, what did I say? When you're in the red area, you already don't have that much room to work because of how tight everything is. So one thing he does very good, too, is just being able to attack wherever the leverage is going to be from the defensive standpoint in terms of what they give him, to be able to create just a little bit more separation to give Jaden Daniels a more clear picture to throw to while still making a difficult catch in traffic. So right here, man, it's just a little simple three-step slant. The defender was kind of playing outside leverage. I'm talking about way outside, so I'm not quite sure if there was a zone or was he just playing off man, or was there confusion in terms of who was supposed to be guarding who between him and his teammate. But he just does a good job at just being able to catch the ball and being able to eat up some yards after the catch. He make the catch initially, being able to go out, get out of that arm tackle, run for a few more yards after, well, a lot more yards after, to just maximize on the gain after the play. But once again, like I say, one of the things about him too is that we've seen him attack vertically down the field. He can do that as well, but then he can also do things underneath, just like this, taking something that's as simple as a 3-yard slant and taking it for an additional, 15 to 20 some yard run after the catch. Man, I sure do love this red area production, man. Once again, we got something simple, a little 3-step slant, catches the ball 3rd and 8 on, third down play. I think it was a 3rd and 8. Yeah, 3rd and 9, actually. So once again, a got to have a situation. Once again, it's a red area possession and he comes through. He just runs a simple slant and he just showcases good body control to be able to catch this slant route right here and being able to run after those tackles and put them in a better position in terms of field positioning to try to get the touchdown. Like I said, man, just little simple plays like this to where the average player probably would have been stopped like right at or a little bit further than the first down. But with him, his body control and his balance, he's able to fall forward for an additional 3 to 4 yards to put them in prime field position in terms of being able to get it in the end zone. All right, so once again, we got another explosive down the field play. You got a 1st and 10. You got Terry McLaurin lined up in the slot. Just like I said, he lines up in a multitude of different ways. We've seen him lined up on outside. We've seen him lined up in the slot. We've seen him lined up outside the numbers. We've seen him lined up inside the numbers. So when you have a guy that you can maneuver around that much, it makes it a little bit harder to try to key in and double team him, especially in those gotta have a situation. So, he gets a one-on-one matchup out the slot. And once again, man, just from the beginning, he just kind of had the receiver beat in terms of leverage. Honestly, not the receiver, but the defensive back beat in terms of leverage. Now, he didn't just have great separation from him, but he just kind of had out leveraged him. And obviously, Jaden Daniels knew that you had the single high safety that could have been a potential risk to that play being made. So he does a good job at kind of putting it toward angling the ball towards Terry McLaurin's outside shoulder. And Terry McLaurin does a very good job at being able to track the ball for one, and then also being able to make another tough catch against the sideline. So right here, you got Commanders. They got 4 receivers lined up on one side to kind of try to confuse the defense. And I think they did a good job at that because Terry McLaurin just does a good job at just getting behind the defense and not really, like I said, it wasn't like he was running at a superb speed. He just does a good job at just, vertically attacking and just getting behind the defense. Now, where he does Terry McLaurin things is when he's able to catch the ball and able to make a play afterwards. And not only is he able to make a play afterwards, man, just look at how he was able to separate from this defense, So like I say, he does a good job at being able to kind of control his tempo. If you look at a lot of his routes, when he starts off like coming off the line of scrimmage, they're not real fast. He don't get fast until he normally gives his fake and normally, go with whatever he's going to do, whether it's going to be a slant, whether it's going to be a post, whether it's going to be a corner, dig, drag, whatever the case may be. He does a good job at using different tempos to attack. So a lot of times it can kind of be like one of those things where you're thinking that, well, maybe he's just a decoy because of how he's running and because he's not running full speed, like he's really trying to attack. And then at the last minute, he kind of just kicks it into second gear. But right here, once again, he showcases why he's very dangerous with the ball in his hands, with catching runs, with just being able to catch this ball and just completely pull away from the Cowboys defenders, man. Let's take another look at that. He make number 31 miss. He take a horrible angle. And after that, he just was able to outrun number 6. And then he was able to outrun, I think that was number 24. And number 24 kind of somewhat had an angle on him. So right here, we got another red area possession. And once again, man, he shows his vision for maneuvering in the red area, man. Like I said, man, this dude right here is a real weapon. When you get down there, you have to put a focal point on him, because if not, man, he would gas you up whenever the Commanders get down there in the red area. So once again, he does a good job at just coming off the line of scrimmage. You see the corner try to get aggressive with him, kind of just using his hands to minimize the effectiveness of it. And he just cuts back across that looks like a linebacker's face, number 17, and just just walks into the end zone for an easy touchdown. But like I say, he's just good at being able to maneuver and seeing those openings and being able to attack them. But then even if you look at what he did on number 17, once again, he kind of attacked the leverage of him. So right here, he kind of gave somewhat of a fake, and obviously the number 17 eyes was on the quarterback, so his eyes was never really on the Terry McLaurin. So he did a good job at kind of hitting the blind spot and then just jumping back across his face just for an easy walk-in touchdown. Now, I know that this is a Terry McLaurin film study, but man, we have to take the time to appreciate this pass thrown by Jaden Daniels. So once again, you got Terry McLaurin running a slant route. You got a guy who comes off the edge on the blitz, a free runner at Jaden Daniels. So Jaden Daniels does a good job at side arming the throw, because obviously if he was to try to just throw it straight up, the number 21 would be able to possibly jump up and tip the ball to get a pass breakup. But he does a good job at kind of side arming it past the corner coming off the blitz, and then number 29 was kind of pretty much draped all on Terry McLaurin, and he just was able to thread the needle on that throw. But once again, nice concentration catch on Terry McLaurin. Like I said, man, I love the red area productivity from this man. This dude, he comes in play after play in the red area, and once again, he's good at making those tough, difficult catches. And being in the NFL, period, you're going to have to be able to do that to be able to be dominant, but most definitely to be effective in the red area. All right, so we got another red area possession. Once again, man, what did I just say? This dude dominates when he gets into the red area. So it looked like the Saints was kind of sitting back in his zone. Terry McLaurin just ran an out route, and Alontae Taylor kind of stayed over the top of it with his eyes on the quarterback. So he never really drove downhill to try to, I guess, to view Terry McLaurin as a threat based off of what he was seeing from Jaden Daniels. So obviously the pass rush probably got there, or really just nobody being open initially led to Jaden Daniels scrambling. Obviously, in the red area, Jaden Daniels becomes so much big of a threat because he can just run in for the touchdown himself. So Terry McLaurin does a good job at noticing it, and watch how he works back across field. Once again, look at him working back across field, put his hand up to let him know, hey, man, I'm open. Jaden Daniels finds him for an easy touchdown. So, man, like I said, man, I just love the pure red zone, the red area domination, man. That's something that I don't think that we've seen from a receiver just over the course of breaking film down consistently. A lot of the plays that they are making in the red area, and obviously having a guy like that is a benefit, because when you get to the red area, like I always say, you want to come up with points, right? So right here, number 14 really just gives him a free release, doesn't really get up at the line of scrimmage to challenge him, gives him a free release. He just really doesn't even really do a move. He just runs into his route, runs the drag, and then just simply outruns number 14 for an easy touchdown. So right here, we got to have a situation. We got a 3rd and 8, and man, just look at this catch. Just look at the placement of the ball for one, but then just look at the skills of being able to track the ball. I think it looks like he might have ran some type of double move to try to get to the outside to where he attacked the leverage of Quinyon Mitchell and then bounced it back outside. And obviously, Jaden Daniels just did a good job at just, putting that thing up in the air and allowing him to run underneath it and catch the ball. But once again, it goes back to, as a receiver, can you make those over the shoulders catches? Can you make those difficult catches, man? And if I'm not mistaken, he catches that on the outside shoulder as well. So just look at the ball tracking ability, man. Jaden Daniels put that thing up there and he tracks it all the way, catches on the outside shoulder, and was able to get both feet in for a touchdown. So right here, you got a one-on-one matchup on the outside with Terry McLaurin and number 26. So if you look at number 26, man, number 26 had normally you see DBs with their butts to the sideline. He actually had his butt to midfield. So I'm assuming that he was anticipating, pretty much was 100% sure, or just taking a big gamble that Terry McLaurin was going to run something out breaking. And even though he still was positioned outside and was able to get his hips flipped, or open up his hips right there to be able to try to defend it, Terry McLaurin does a good job at just kind of being able to get on top of him and just kind of being able to stack him right there, and not really allowing him to be able to get in position to be able to really effectively defend it, because he couldn't get his head back around. So you look at Terry McLaurin, he does a good job at tracking the ball and also high pointing the ball, catching the ball at its highest point over the defender to secure the catch. And what that does is, when you catch the ball at its highest point, just like that right there, it takes away from the probability of the DB being able to break up the pass, because obviously in a situation where he can't get his head around, he's going to try to play through your arms. And when you go up for the ball, he's going to try to play it and time it and get his arms in there to possibly get the breakup. But you see, he does a good job at being able to nullify that by going up and attacking the ball at his highest point. Man, I'm going to go ahead and say this. Hey, man, I think Terry McLaurin might be knocking on the door for a spot in the top 5 receivers in the NFL, man, because just look at the plays that this dude is making. Once again, we got another guy to have a situation. You got him matched up on the outside against a pretty good cover corner in Jamel Dean, and he really just does a good job at being able to beat Dean at the line of scrimmage. Now, granted, they might have been trying to play a high-low bracket too, so Dean might have allowed for him to run past him to try to catch him in the trail position, so that could have also been a thing too, to try to stay underneath him. That way he can't run anything underneath and to try try to stay over the top of them the way they can't really do anything over the top. So Jaden Daniels does a good job at obviously recognizing that and being able to put the ball. So he throws the ball towards the outside shoulder of Terry McLaurin to try to take the safety out of the way to being able to make a play on the ball. And he just does a good job at, once again, man, tracking the ball in the air and being able to make a tough catch going up against that sideline. Like to me, that's just very impressive in itself. You already don't have much room to work with when you're lined up outside the numbers, because you have that sideline working against you. But he's such a good tracker of the ball. He has phenomenal ball skills that it makes it to where the sideline really isn't even a factor because of how good he is at being able to kind of manipulate the space and create situations for Jaden Daniels to get him the ball, and then just making heck of catches on plays just like this. Once again, you got Jamel Dean, who's over the top, over his back pretty much, and he's still able to secure that catch for a first down. So if you remember when I was talking about Terry McLaurin catching the ball and running after the catch and being able to make plays after he catch the ball with runs after the catch with Yak, this is the exact play that I was talking about in the playoff game against the Detroit Lions. So if you look at it, they ran a wide receiver screen. So you had 3 guys on the outside. It looks like matched up on 1. So number 14 went out to block, and the defender did a good job at kind of really just fighting through the block, and he wasn't really able to fully secure the block. So when Terry McLaurin catches the ball right here, he catches it, boom, and the guy's still fighting. And he has a shot at being able to get to him. But once again, man, he's so quick and he's so fast and so well balanced and powerful that he's able to really be able to stay on his feet to shake free initially from the somewhat of an arm tackle, and then being able to just get upfield, being able to separate and being able to kind of just slither out of this little arm tackle right here. So you had the guy that got a hold to him, kind of tripped up his foot right there. He did a good job at maintaining the balance, not going out of bounds, and just being able to capitalize with the touchdown on that run after the catch. All right, man. So for the final play, we got another guy to have a situation, man. We got a 3rd and 3, and we got Terry McLaurin again doing Terry McLaurin things. So you got him matched up on the outside against Darius Slay, and he just ran a simple slant route. So nothing about the route was just that extravagant, right? It was just a simple route. Now, what he does after is what's extravagant, right? From one, to be able to run through a bond tackle. That's a linebacker, right? A sure tackle, a linebacker. So for him to be able to catch the ball for one in that little window right here, catch the ball, secure the catch, and then be able to shake free from Bond's tackle to be able to run and, outrun the defense for a touchdown, for a catch and run touchdown, man. It shows you the explosiveness, and it shows you the playmaking ability, man. Whenever it was time for a play to be made and those guys that have a situation, those 3rd downs, more times than not, he came up and he made the play, man. I just got one question for you guys too. Is he a top 5 receiver in the NFL? When you look in terms of production and what this man was able to do over the course of this season, I just want to know y'all take on that, man. This dude was able to hit you vertically down the field with over the top passes. This dude was able to hit you with underneath passes just like this one right here, a little simple 3-step slants that he could take 30, 40 some yards to the house. You've seen his productivity in the red area. You've seen just him being able to maneuver in those tight spaces and being able to make those gotta have it plays down there as well. Like I say, man, when you have a guy like that, he becomes a focal point on the defensive the defensive coordinator's game plan. And when you game planning to try to take him out of the play, it allows for other guys to be able to open up as well. And then another thing I talk about too is his ability to play off script. When things break down, when the pass rush get to Jaden Daniels and he rolls out the pocket to extend the plays, he's very good at being able to identify that and to be able to put himself in a position to give Jaden Daniels a throwing lane. But man, like I said, man, let me know what you guys think. Is he a top 5 receiver? If so, let me know why. And if you don't think so, let me know why about that as well. But man, if you guys did enjoy this video, do me a big favor, smash that thumbs up button. Also, if you're new to the channel, man, make sure you subscribe. And when you subscribe, make sure that you got that notification bell turned on, the way you be notified every time I upload. And I'll see y'all in the next video.